think that Scrounger Starmer, as a story, as a scandal, is getting worse by the day.
She said he likes to chillax. That was someone else's assessment. Here we have a guy who is auditioning for the most important job in the land, and he's telling us his terms and conditions.
Did you see Keir Starmer squirm on live TV? Isabel Oakeshott just exposed his 38 approval rating, leaving him red-faced and fumbling for words. But that's not all. Wait until you hear how Starmer tried to laugh off 3 million voices demanding change.
I really don't. And there are a few things that, even though those of us that really are ideologically fundamentally opposed to where I just don't know how it can be this bad, and I don't want it to be bad.
This confrontation is about to change everything you thought you knew about Labour's leader. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Keir Starmer's approval ratings have taken a nosedive, plummeting to an astonishing -38. This dramatic drop has left many wondering what's behind the Labour leader's sudden fall from grace. Just a few months ago, Starmer was riding high on promises of change and a fresh direction for the party. But now the public seems to have soured on his leadership. Recent polls paint a picture of a politician increasingly out of touch with the electorate. Focus groups reveal a growing frustration with Starmer's perceived inability to connect with everyday concerns. Experts point to several factors contributing to this decline. For one, Labour's policies have come under intense scrutiny, with critics arguing they lack clarity and substance. The party's stance on key issues like immigration and economic reform has been called into question, leaving voters unsure of what Labour truly stands for. Moreover, Starmer's personal demeanour has come under fire. Some view him as aloof and disconnected from the struggles of ordinary Britons. This perception has been reinforced by a series of public appearances where Starmer seemed to stumble when pressed on important issues. But perhaps the most damaging blow to Starmer's reputation came from an unexpected source: his own reaction to public sentiment. In a move that shocked many, Starmer laughed off a petition signed by over 3 million people calling for a general election. This dismissive attitude towards such a significant expression of public will struck many as arrogant and out of touch. The backlash was swift and severe. Social media erupted with criticism, with many accusing Starmer of disregarding the voices of the very people he claims to represent. Political commentators were quick to point out the irony of a leader who promised to listen to the public, so blatantly ignoring such a clear call for action. This incident seems to have crystallized many of the doubts and frustrations that had been building around Starmer's leadership. It reinforced the perception of a politician more concerned with political maneuvering than addressing the real concerns of voters. As Starmer struggles to regain his footing, enter Isabel Oakeshott. The hard-hitting journalist has become a thorn in Starmer's side, relentlessly exposing the contradictions and shortcomings in his leadership. Oakeshott's no-nonsense approach has resonated with a public increasingly skeptical of political spin and empty promises. In the world of political journalism, one name stands out as the ultimate nightmare for evasive politicians. Isabel Oakeshott has made a career out of cornering the powerful, but her confrontation with Starmer was about to redefine the art of the political interview. What weapons does she wield that make her so formidable? Isabel Oakeshott is not your typical political journalist. She's earned a reputation as a hard-hitting interrogator who doesn't pull punches when it comes to holding politicians accountable. Her approach stands in stark contrast to the often softball questioning seen in many political interviews. Where others might tread carefully, Oakeshott charges in, armed with facts and a determination to get to the truth. What sets Oakeshott apart is her unwavering commitment to direct questioning. She doesn't allow politicians to hide behind vague statements or deflect with prepared talking points. Instead, she zeroes in on inconsistencies and demands clear answers. This technique has made her both respected and feared in political circles. Oakeshott's confrontational style has led to some memorable moments in British political discourse. She's taken on heavyweight politicians, exposing their contradictions and forcing them to confront uncomfortable truths. Her ability to back up her arguments with solid facts makes it difficult for her targets to dismiss her critiques. But it's not just about being tough. Oakeshott's effectiveness comes from her thorough research and preparation. She doesn't just ask difficult questions, she asks the right questions. This approach resonates with viewers who are tired of seeing politicians dodge responsibility and evade straight answers. The public reaction to Oakeshott's style has been largely positive. Many appreciate her willingness to speak truth to power and demand accountability. In an era where trust in politicians is at an all-time low, Oakeshott's no-nonsense approach feels like a breath of fresh air to many viewers. Oakeshott's previous interactions with Starmer have been particularly pointed. She's consistently called him out on what she sees as vague responses and a lack of coherent strategy, especially on critical issues like immigration. Her critiques have highlighted the growing frustration among voters who feel let down by empty promises and inaction. As Starmer prepared for his latest media appearance, the stage was set for a showdown. Oakeshott was ready to confront him with the harsh reality of his plummeting approval ratings. The moment arrived, and Oakeshott didn't disappoint. She challenged Starmer directly, asking him point-blank why he believed he was so unpopular with the public. The confrontation left Starmer visibly uncomfortable, struggling to defend his position. Oakeshott's questioning exposed the gap between Starmer's rhetoric and the public's perception of his leadership. It was a moment that encapsulated the growing dissatisfaction with Starmer's performance as Labour leader. Starmer's approval ratings were just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface lurked a web of contradictions that threatened to unravel his entire political persona. Oakeshott was about to pull the thread that could unravel it all. Political flip-flopping is nothing new, but Keir Starmer seems to have turned it into an art form. His ever-changing stances on key issues have left voters scratching their heads and questioning his credibility. It's one thing to adapt to new information, but Starmer's policy shifts seem more like a weather vane spinning in the political winds. Take immigration, for instance. Starmer's approach has been criticized for being as clear as mud. He's oscillated between tough talk and vague promises, leaving both supporters and critics unsure of where he truly stands. In areas most affected by rising immigration numbers, frustration is boiling over. People are demanding action, not just more empty words. Then there's the thorny issue of taxes. Starmer once promised stability, assuring voters he wouldn't raise taxes. Fast forward a few months, and suddenly he's hinting that tax hikes might be necessary after all. It's the kind of U-turn that gives political whiplash to even the most seasoned observers. Experts suggest various motivations behind these policy shifts. Some argue Starmer is desperately trying to appeal to a broad voter base, while others see it as a sign of weak leadership, caving to pressure from different factions within the Labour Party. Whatever the reason, the result is clear: a growing lack of trust among voters. As Oakeshott prepared to confront Starmer with these inconsistencies, the tension in the studio was palpable. Would he try to dodge and weave, or would he finally offer some straight answers? The confrontation was nothing short of explosive. Oakeshott systematically laid out Starmer's contradictory statements, timestamp by timestamp. She pressed him on his shifting immigration stance, demanding to know how long the country could keep accepting new arrivals without proper planning. Starmer squirmed, his usual polished demeanor cracking under the pressure. But Oakeshott wasn't done. She turned to his flip-flopping on taxes, presenting a damning timeline of promises made and broken. Starmer's attempts to explain away the contradictions fell flat, each fumbling response digging him deeper into a hole of his own making. By the end of the interview, Starmer looked shell-shocked. Oakeshott had exposed not just individual policy shifts, but a pattern of inconsistency that struck at the very heart of his leadership. The public reaction was swift and brutal. Social media exploded with clips of Starmer's most awkward moments, while political commentators dissected his performance with gleeful abandon. The dust may have settled, but the political landscape was far from calm. In the wake of Oakeshott's ruthless interrogation, a storm of public opinion erupted. How did this televised takedown really impact Starmer's standing with voters? The answer might surprise you, and it's not what Labour strategists were hoping for. The immediate aftermath of the Oakeshott-Starmer interview sent shockwaves through British politics. Social media platforms became battlegrounds of conflicting narratives, with supporters and critics alike weighing in on Starmer's performance. Many viewers expressed shock at the Labour leader's inability to defend his positions, particularly his dismissive attitude towards the 3 million signature petition for a general election. Labour supporters found themselves in a difficult position. Some tried to downplay the significance of the interview, arguing that Starmer was simply caught off guard. Others, however, couldn't hide their disappointment. One Labour member commented, "It's hard to defend someone who seems so out of touch with the people he's meant to represent." Critics, on the other hand, seized the opportunity to hammer home their points. Conservative MPs were quick to share clips of Starmer's most awkward moments, while right-leaning media outlets ran headlines questioning his fitness to lead. The interview seemed to confirm what many had suspected. Starmer was struggling to connect with voters and articulate a clear vision for the country. Political analysts weighed in on the potential long-term impact of the confrontation. Many agreed that this could be a turning point for Labour. Starmer's performance has exposed deep-seated issues within the party. One analyst noted, "It's not just about policy flip-flops anymore. There's a growing perception that Labour's leadership is disconnected from the concerns of ordinary people." The incident has sparked intense discussions about Labour's future strategy. Some party insiders are calling for a complete overhaul of their approach to public engagement. They argue that Starmer's dismissive response to the petition highlights a need for more grassroots involvement and better listening mechanisms. As Labour grapples with the fallout, there's a sense that this could influence their approach to future elections. The party may need to reconsider its messaging and find ways to rebuild trust with disillusioned voters. Some are even suggesting that Starmer's leadership itself may be in jeopardy if he can't turn things around quickly. The broader implications for British politics are significant. This incident has highlighted a growing demand for accountability and transparency from political leaders. It's clear that voters are tired of evasive answers and empty promises. The success of Oakeshott's confrontational style suggests that there's an appetite for more direct, no-nonsense political discourse. Isabel Oakeshott's confrontation with Keir Starmer has laid bare the deep-seated issues plaguing Labour's leadership. Her relentless questioning exposed Starmer's policy flip-flops and his apparent disconnect from public sentiment. The incident highlighted Starmer's struggle to articulate a clear vision for the country and his dismissive attitude towards voter concerns. This televised takedown may signal a shift in British political discourse. There's a growing appetite for more direct, no-nonsense questioning of political figures. Journalists and the public alike are demanding greater accountability and transparency from their leaders. The success of Oakeshott's approach suggests that politicians can no longer hide behind vague statements or prepared talking points.